Beacon Press Audio presents Life as Jamie Knows It. An Exceptional Child Grows Up by Michael Berube. This audiobook is narrated by Brian W. Roberts. Published by Beacon Press Audio, 2016. Reintroducing Jamie Bérubé. My little Jamie loves lists. That was how I opened Life as We Know It 20 years ago, writing my first draft when Jamie was only 3.5 years old. My Jamie is no longer little, but he still loves lists. He is, I think, the most astonishing and assiduous maker of lists I have ever met. When he has to entertain himself, when he's waiting for breakfast or sitting through one of his parents' lectures or just keeping himself occupied while he watches one of his dozens of wrestling videos, he takes out a legal pad and writes down A, various Beatles songs along with the year of their release, or B, various opponents of the wrestler known as The Undertaker, or C, cities from one of his world atlases, cities from the Middle East or Central Asia or Indonesia or South America or Wisconsin, or D, all 67 Pennsylvania counties in alphabetical order, from Adams to York. He makes all his lists from memory, with the exception of the cities lists, which he copies out of the atlas. We have hundreds of these legal pads in our house, and we are always buying more. I'm not sure exactly when little Jamie stopped being little. In his tween years he was still a waif, short, skinny, and easy to carry if carrying was needed. I have a video of him from late 2002 when he was 11, and his voice is impossibly high and squeaky. Then again, that was true also of pre-adolescent Nick, and I wondered, as I went through our old family videos to convert them to DVDs, was there a time when my children huffed helium? Down syndrome is associated with shortness of stature, and my wife, Janet, once predicted that Jamie would grow no taller than 5 feet 2 inches. I said 5 feet 6 inches. I won the Jamie height prediction pool. Jamie is now 5 feet 7 inches, and somewhere in his teen years he developed wide, powerful shoulders and a strong upper body. He is a Special Olympic swimmer and loves work tasks that involve physical exertion. Buying him dress shirts is a challenge. He has an 18-inch neck, almost like a football lineman's, and a short torso. But we think that, all in all, he is a reasonably attractive young man. In French, he would be, and I sometimes call him, un gentil et sympathique jeune homme. Aussi entre nous, il est adorable. He is bright, gregarious, even ebullient in social gatherings, and his lists are the product of his amazing cataloging memory and his insatiable intellectual curiosity about the world, its people, its creatures, its nations, its languages, and, perhaps most of all, its culinary traditions. If it were possible for Jamie to travel everywhere on the inhabited globe, he would do it, and he would try to ingratiate himself with his hosts, just as he does when he greets the owner of our local Indian restaurant by bowing, hands clasped, and saying, Namaskar. The owner, Sohan Dadra, is delighted by this. In the years after the publication of Life as We Know It, I was warned repeatedly and emphatically that it's all very well and good to write about a child with an intellectual disability when your child is young and cute. Children with intellectual disabilities go over best, evidently, when they are young and cute, long before anybody has to worry about things like their adolescent friendships, or lack thereof, and their burgeoning sexuality, and their thoughts about morality, and their prospects for employment. Adults with intellectual disabilities are another thing entirely. Any number of people, though I have not made a list of their names, who coo solicitously over a toddler with Down syndrome might find themselves recoiling, either from awkwardness or from outright revulsion, from the adult with Down syndrome who sits down next to them on the bus. So let me establish this much at the very outset. My little Jamie is no longer little. But he has remained cute for 20 years, except that his cuteness, as he has grown, has taken forms no one could have imagined when he was little. Sometimes it is a matter of realizing that our Jamie can be witty and observant, even incisively so. Sometimes it is a matter of understanding how dramatically his own self-understanding has deepened as he has grown. I think of the fresh spring day in 2002 when Jamie informed me that we could not walk to school. He was in 4th grade, because the ground was strewn with berries, and we would have polka-dot feet. Or I think of the moment in early 2005 when we emerged from the local gym, having done our racquetball and swimming routine for the weekend, and Jamie, seeing me put his gym card in my wallet, declared, "Michael, that's my card. I can have a wallet. I'm a teenager. I'm allowed." Ever since then, he has called me Michael, though we occasionally call each other sir. And ever since then, he has had a wallet. I took him at once to Target, where he bought a wallet and placed his gym card and his school ID in it. The next morning he walked to the bus stop with his right hand placed firmly on his back pocket, with his mind on his wallet and his wallet on his mind. Or I think of our trip to Boulder, Colorado in 2008, where I was to speak at the Coleman Institute for Cognitive Disabilities, and I showed Jamie the design of the Denver International Airport, with its famous peaked canopy roof, white fabric stretched over the skeleton of the main terminal. "Some people say it looks like the snowy mountains of Colorado," I told Jamie. "Some people say it looks like tents or Native American teepees, and some people say it looks like the meringue on a lemon meringue pie. You know, the pie with the white fluffy stuff on top?" "Mm-hmm," Jamie nodded, adding something unintelligible. "I'm sorry, sweetie, what did you say?" He repeated the unintelligible word unintelligibly. This happens now and again. His speech tends to be unclear, and he sometimes isn't sure he has the right word, as when he told me to shave with a rooster when he meant shave with a razor. He was 4. Or when he complained in the course of a long walk that we would be like the Ramones. He was 16, and Nick and I never found out just what he meant. To make matters worse, he speaks too quickly, most likely because he has a father who speaks too quickly. Fortunately, he has seemingly endless reserves of patience when people ask him to repeat himself, and I know of only a handful of instances in which he became frustrated with his auditors, as when he finally explained to his family, after repeatedly asking for Susie, that it comes from Japan. "Ah," we said, "sushi." And yet one morning Janet overheard him talking to some of his stuffed animals, saying, "Jamie Bérubé. No, Jamie Bérubé. Jamie Bérubé. Jamie. It was then that Janet proposed the theory that Jamie loved his dog Lucy, in part because she was the only creature in his world that never asked him to repeat himself. This time it took him 3 or 4 tries before I understood that he was saying Sydney. "Sydney who?" I asked. Finally he got a wee bit weary with me. "Not Sydney who," he replied. "Sydney in Australia." Oh, holy mother of Moloch! Sydney in Australia? I started to tear up behind the wheel. Here was my teenage son with Down syndrome likening the architectural design of the Denver International Airport to the white shell roofs of the Sydney Opera House. I did not see that one coming. But my favorite story from Jamie's teen years involves a watershed moment, which happened at the very end of a business trip to Blaine, Washington, on the Canadian border. Jamie has always loved everything about traveling. The packing, the driving, the airport. He will ask about connections and gates months in advance of any connections or gates. The rental car, the hotel, and the pool. For there must be a pool. So even though we had to drive 3 hours to Pittsburgh in pouring rain, fly to Seattle, then drive another 3 hours to Blaine, he loved all of it. We got in at 1 a.m. 1 a.m. Pacific time. That is 4 a.m. to us. During my presentation, Jamie sat quietly at the back of a large room for 90 minutes and played his Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban CD-ROM game on my laptop with headphones while I did my bit. Afterward, we visited the Vancouver Aquarium, the Capilano Suspension Bridge, and the Grouse Mountain Sky Ride. Then it was back to Seattle for a midnight flight to Pittsburgh and the drive back to our home in the unimaginatively named town of State College. Jamie was cool with getting ready for bed at the airport, even though this initially made no sense to him. He asked only for a glass of chocolate milk before he had to brush his teeth, and when I explained to him that most of the shops and stores in the Seattle-Tacoma airport were closed, he said, "We should ask," and promptly stopped a person at random. "Do you know where there is chocolate milk?" I explained to Jamie that this somewhat nice man, he merely half smiled at the question, did not work at the airport. We found a Starbucks shortly thereafter, and Jamie decided to wait on a bench near security while I got some water for me and some chocolate milk for him. I was being served just as they began to close up shop, at 10 p.m. I knew it would cause Jamie some distress to see his father trapped in Starbucks.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?